Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today we're going to have the first of 3 discussions that I want to hold regarding the recent leaks that came out and were confirmed by the devs to be true regarding Seasons 2, 3, and 4 and the codenamed Project Skyscraper. I did a video covering everything that those leaks contain, and so if you want to see that, I'll have a card up on screen for it now. But what I want to do with this video and the subsequent ones coming soon is talk about what this all means for the game in the long term. What kind of additional content does it hint towards? What does it set up narratively and content-wise for the game and the franchise? That's what I want to accomplish with this part 1 deep dive of Project Skyscraper and the upcoming 2 that I mentioned. Parts 2 and 3 are going to focus on both the narrative elements to the leaks and what that means and what we can expect for the future of Division 2 and beyond, so stay tuned for those videos coming soon. And quickly before I start, yes, this will definitely contain spoilers for the aforementioned leak of the Year 2 content that came out a couple of weeks back, so if you want to keep this stuff a surprise, you should click off now. But without wasting any more time, let's jump right into it. So, quick recap. What do we know for sure about Project Skyscraper? Confirmed by the devs on both State of the Game and Reddit, which we'll come back to, this is an in-development game mode for the Division 2. The devs claim that this will not be an Underground 2.0 or just a rehashed mode from the Division 1. They want to develop something new and something that makes sense in the context of Division 2, which sounds great, no doubt. Despite those claims, however, this mode looks to be a pretty interesting blend between Underground and Resistance from Division 1. From the limited info that we know, which consists of a bundle of audio files from Kelso describing our objectives in this mode, here's the gist of what the mode will be about. Our overall goal is to ascend a skyscraper from the ground floor all the way up to the roof on floor 100. This won't be easy, however. You have to climb it floor by floor, facing enemy setups and encounters on each one. According to those audio lines, there will be safe floors every 10 levels, which people have concluded means that once you clear it, you get a checkpoint. You're free to wait as long as you like inside the mode until you're ready to go on, or you can even fast travel out and come back to that floor whenever you're finally ready. This continues until you reach floor 80, where that'll be your final checkpoint. Onwards for those last 20 floors, you'll get no further checkpoints as you near the top floor, and that's about it. As far as I can tell, that's the extent of the actual concrete information those audio files detail. So how does this resemble those Division 1 game modes? Well, certainly it's similar to Resistance in the way of progressing through wave after wave. However, in Skyscraper's case, there's an actual ending to look forward to, which personally I think is great. It would add a lot of incentive to progress through those 100 full floors, given there's a good reward at the end, of course. But how does this resemble Underground, as I was mentioning? Well, there's been a lot of speculation that's been held since these leaks came out, and I would have to agree with the thought that it's very likely these floors will be randomized, possibly in terms of their layout, but definitely in terms of the enemies you encounter. The devs stress that this is their bit at bringing replayability to the game, and there wouldn't be much replayability in fighting the same enemies in the same rooms over and over. On top of that, people have also concluded that it's pretty likely there'll be boss floors or boss fights at every certain amount of floors, and yeah, I'd say that's pretty likely. It's a traditional structure to something like this, and I see no reason why the devs wouldn't adopt it here. To get into my own speculation, I think there will be bosses every 10 floors, and beating them is how you unlock these save floors and checkpoints. It just kind of makes sense. So there's really 3 unknowns here that I want to cover, those being what kind of loot we can expect, what difficulty it might be, and what might lie at floor 100. Let's talk loot. I think something to consider is that with TU6 we got targeted loot, and that really revolutionized the game in the sense that, as the name suggests, we can now target the exact stuff that we wanted to get. It's pretty crazy actually to think about how we never had that previously. So now as we turn our focus to game modes, only to have to wait a year and a half to finally get them, we now have to consider how loot fits into the structure of targeted. Now the easy option would be for the devs to add the mode to the daily rotation of targeted allocations, but personally I don't really want to see that. The big reason is because this is a mode that's meant to be the pinnacle of replayability, and if it gets some shitty targets for 3 days in a row, then I'm just not going to want to play it. So here's what I suggest, and this is not my original idea. Credit goes to someone who commented this on the initial leak thread on Reddit, but I want to spread this pretty neat idea that they brought up. And that's it. What if we could choose our own target? Maybe when you enter the lobby of this skyscraper as you head onto floor 1, there's a terminal on the wall that when interacted with, it shows you every category of targeted loot in the game, and you simply select which one you want. That would be awesome. Beyond any exclusive stuff they tie to this mode, that alone would sell the replayability of this thing and gives you a real reason to run it. You get to choose your own loot. I could see a lot of people taking advantage of that. And to build upon this, maybe after you beat those bosses or whatever every 10 floors and unlock the checkpoint, there's a terminal on those floors too that allow you to switch the target midway through. That would be epic. Additionally, they could just allow you to travel back down to the lobby whenever you're at those checkpoints, and maybe there's a stash and other stuff for you to use there as well. But in principle, I think allowing this freedom with loot in a replayable mode like this would be an incredible addition to the game. Next, let's talk difficulty. There's really 2 ways that could go with this. One is that they could just have the mode scale with whatever your world difficulty you select, but personally, I don't think that's the avenue they're headed down. And primarily that's because there's this emphasis on how your main goal is to get to the top, and clearly that gets harder the higher and higher you go, given there's no more checkpoints after floor 80. I feel and hope honestly that this mode is separate and unaffected by outside difficulty, and that it doesn't have its own difficulty setting, similar to Resistance seasons in Div 1. I think that those first 50 floors should be relatively easy if you're someone who runs Heroic and Legendary with ease, and then maybe that first half leads you up to the point of the border between challenging and Heroic content in terms of difficulty. And then past that, those players who operate in the challenging level of content have to decide whether they want to take on that challenge of Heroic and Legendary difficulty or bow out for the week. I feel like the Skyscraper as a whole should singularly progress in difficulty the higher you go, and that it should be a static mechanic. Now they could definitely add the global directives or some unique ones to the mode itself for extra challenge, XP, and rewards, but overall I think one endless difficulty like Resistance had would be good. Finally, let's cover the endgame, if you will, and that's what might await us at floor 100. This is also tied to difficulty and loot in a sense, so consider this a culmination of everything thus far. I think this should be a hard fight. I'm assuming, and it's probably pretty obvious, that this will be a boss fight, and what I think might be cool is that if the devs create, 5 different bosses and unique fights that we could get for each playthrough, maybe on par with the uniqueness of a legendary bosses with their light but still meaningful mechanics. And so for there to be a legendary difficult fight in the setting where your last checkpoint was 20 floors down, that's pretty hardcore. But like I've been stressing, this mode has to be replayable. It has to appeal to both the casual and the hardcore audience, and so to have a pretty casual first half of the mode and then this ultimate challenge awaiting on the roof of the building would be pretty sweet. So what kind of rewards could we expect from this sort of challenge? I think it should be pretty similar to Legendary, honestly, having a unique exotic or maybe even two that are tied to the mode. On top of this, I would also have one or several unique and really dope outfits tied to the mode. I think Massive really underestimates how alluring cosmetics can be in this game because they're seldom tied to gameplay or presented as challenging rewards, when in fact, given they're cool enough, I think a lot of people would go for them. So given we have cosmetics and an exotic awaiting us in this mode, I'd say it's pretty enticing for people to go check out and play. But given my proposition for how hardcore the upper floors of this mode are, is that too punishing for the more casual audience? Because in all honesty, they'd probably never have a chance to even get those rewards. Well, here's my thought on that. I'd have these exclusive exotic and cosmetic rewards drop from a free to open chest once you beat the final floor. Maybe the exotic drops at a 5% rate like the Bighorn, and the different clothing pieces are 10 or 15% each. But I'd be down for adding the same chest with the same rewards at the 50th floor, just with a lower drop chance. Maybe a 1 or a 2.5% chance for the exotic, and a 5 or 10% chance for the clothes. This way the casual audience has a chance at these rewards if they climb high enough, and the hardcore audience has an extra chance to obtain these rewards on their way to floor 100. I think that's a win-win. So those are my main thoughts on the Skyscraper mode itself. I think it has some really great potential, and just to finally know the devs are working on a game mode for this game is fantastic. It's pretty sorely needed. Will this be the only one though? I want to look at Chris Gambler's direct response to the leak on Reddit, where he said, quote, "We are indeed working on more content outside of the upcoming seasons, and that one of the current ideas is to add a PvE mode that is meant to scratch the replayability itch." So I think it's safe to say that they have more plans besides just the Skyscraper mode itself. Does that mean they're specifically developing additional game modes? No, but it is good to hear that there is more in the works. Does that mean a New York Dark Zone? I really hope so, but again, we'll just have to wait and see. Lastly, it's important to cover when we could realistically see this game mode come to the live game. In his comment, Chris states it's, quote, "in the early stages of development and it's not set for release soon." This is the same notion that they set when discussing the leak on State of the Game. So what does that mean for us? It's hard to say. I don't know what Chris's or Massive's definition of not soon is. One thing I do know is that I can't imagine they're planning on saving this for the long term. Sure, it's in early development, but does that mean they're going to save it for year 3? I think it's unlikely. So when do I think we'll see it? I believe, and this is just my own speculation, that it'll be a lot sooner than they're making it seem. Here's a trend I've picked up on so far, and I know we've only had 2 thus far, but so far, Massive has released content alongside every season's release. Season 1 came with Warlords, which is obviously an entire expansion, and Season 2 is coming with the Foundry Raid. I feel like Massive wants to bring additional content alongside every season, at the very least, just to keep the player base happy. So I think that, and again, just my own opinion, I think that the Skyscraper game mode will coincide with either the release of Season 3 or 4. That sets it at either 3 or 6 months out. I feel like that's a good amount of time for them to progress from the early stages of development that they say they're in now, and a pretty realistic release strategy and timeline. They could bring this game mode with one of those seasons, and the long-rumored New York Dark Zone with the other, who knows? They could just be their own separate releases, but I think and hope that this will be the case. I feel like that's a good spacing of content and something we could all look forward to, speculating about what the next season will bring and such. Alright guys, that's about all I've got for what I wanted to cover regarding the project Skyscraper. I'm really pleased that the devs are finally committing to making a game mode or modes, because honestly that level of replayability is what keeps a game like this alive, and I think it will certainly do nothing but good for the game once it finally releases. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so that you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know down in the comments all of your thoughts about Skyscraper, whether you're excited or more skeptical, what kind of layout, difficulty, and loot you want to see, and when you think it'll actually be released. A lot of this stuff is up in the air, so I'm interested to hear all of your takes on it. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.